Hello, class. We're going to work on Chapter 8, Media Worksheet for our distance learning format. So there's just some stuff that I want to go over that I couldn't find a video on YouTube that went over all these terms in a succinct manner. So I'm going to kind of quickly go over these terms, and then I have a couple of other videos that you'll watch that will fill in the blanks and better explain some of the concepts. All right, so chapter 8 is all about media. And there are two different types of media, or two different terms I want you to know concerning media. You have mass media. I'm sure that you've heard of mass media before. What that is TV and radio and newspapers. It's more like traditional media. And the characteristics of mass media is it's one to many. With TV, or the radio, you have the producer creating the content. It is sent out to the masses, to many people, to the audience. So it's producer produces the content, and it's put out to the audience. It's one to many, and it's one way. The producer pushes it out to the audience. Now, new media refers more towards the internet media. It's more interactive, like YouTube. Anybody can be a producer, and like me right now, I'm producing some media that I'm going to upload to YouTube. So the distinction between producer and audience is blurred with new media. You can, it's more interactive. With YouTube, people can comment on my video afterwards. So that's what new media refers to, is more the internet interactive, and the distinction between the producer and the audience is blurred more so than it is with mass media. All right, let's look at the different sociological theories of media. You know, those sociological theories that just won't go away, huh? We keep on hearing about the functionalist, the conflict, and the interactionist perspective. Well, the functionalist perspective is always going to say that whatever it is we're talking about serves a function. So media serves a function according to the functionalist perspective. It informs us, educates us, entertains us. So it's a source of information, so it socializes us, it promotes ideology. And you're going to have another video to watch that will get into this a little bit more. But I do want to show you this whole promote ideology. When I was typing that in, it made me think of this picture that I'll show you now. All right, so here you have, this is from Hurricane Katrina, and these were some news stories that were put out. And you have this top story, and it's a black woman, or maybe it's a man, woman, I can't quite see. The picture is kind of little, but it says, a young man walks through chest deep flood water after looting a grocery store. So they're using the term looting, and that connotates this negative idea, this stealing, looting. Whereas, look down here, to white people, it says, two residents wade through chest deep water after finding bread and soda. Okay, it's essentially the same thing. These two groups of people are doing exactly the same thing. But one news story says looting, and makes you think of stealing, right? Negative. And with the story with white people, it's more finding. It's more of like, oh, good job, you're just doing what you need to survive. So the media can tell stories in such a way that it promotes, certain stereotypes of groups. It puts out, it socializes us to think negatively about some groups compared to others. That picture with the two different news stories could also be used by the conflict theorists to show how media serves the haves in society. How the haves in society are the ones that own media, own the media corporations, and they can decide how certain groups are talked about compared to others. So conflict theory is going to say media serves the haves, the people that are powerful, that have money in society. We're going to talk about media conglomerates, and that's coming up. And it's just really the majority of media is owned by a handful of corporations, and most of these corporations are owned by white older men, upper middle class to upper class. So certain stories are being told where certain other stories maybe are not being told, and we'll look at that when we talk about media conglomerates. So media serves the haves in society. There's a monopoly with media. You have the owner's views that are often shown, and some don't have access to media, and we'll talk about that when we get down to the term digital divide. So here, the picture for the conflict theory: you have corporate control, and they're squashing a news reporter who's trying to report on labor issues. So let's say that Disney owns a lot of media. Now you have a news person that's maybe talking to somebody who's working for Disney, and they're talking about, hey, we don't get paid right, we don't get treated right. If Disney owns that news corporation, do you think that the news reporters are going to be excited about reporting on stories that go against their bosses? So there's a conflict of interest, and corporations are all about profit. That's what they're there for. They're to create profit. So when you have news companies that are created for profit, you start to wonder about the quality of the information being put out there. So conflict theorists would say all that kind of stuff. Now, interactionists, symbolic interactionists, would say that interactions shown on media construct our norms. It socializes us. The media constructs ideas of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a mom, what it means to be a dad. And so this picture right here shows, I think this was a commercial that went out around the Super Bowl. And a lot of times with Super Bowl commercials, you see like, drink this beer, get this woman. You see men painted in a very drink beer, get women kind of way. And what a symbolic interactionist would say is that here the media is constructing this image of men, and media can also change our ideas of men. And through this commercial, this was a pretty cool commercial because it showed a big football player who was doing a dad do, who was interacting with his daughter and doing up her hair. So a symbolic interactionist would say that the interactions that media shows constructs our ideas of reality. And so a symbolic interactionist would say that this commercial is, constructing the idea that being a man also means being an involved dad. So symbolic interactionist is going to say that our interactions construct our ideas of reality, the interactions in media. A symbolic interactionist might also point out that media changes our interactions, that in the past, when you had mass media, the audience was more passive. Today, with new media, the audience can interact with producers. They can leave comments. They can get involved with the media. Interactions have also changed with, like, in the past, I would have to um, maybe call up my grandparents, whereas today my kids can text their grandparents or FaceTime their grandparents. So media changes interactions. That's what a symbolic interactionist would be interested in. So perspectives on media socialization. The cultivation theory says that when we see certain images in the media over and over and over and over again, we start to believe them. It becomes our reality. So this kid right here is seeing violence, 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 violence in the media, then he's going to act out in an aggressive manner. That's what the cultivation theory says, that media cultivates these ideas in our head and then we act out on it. Now, Another theory is called the agenda setting theory. And this theory says media doesn't tell us exactly what to think, but it sure does influence. And so this picture right here says, don't let others influence your thoughts. And the media, it doesn't tell you, according to the agenda setting theory, there's an agenda there, but it doesn't control your thoughts. So just two different kind of views on media. Other terms related to media is media conglomerates. It means, a monopoly of media ownership. 90% of the media is owned by 5 corporations. You'll have another video to watch about that. Digital divide means that some people have access to digital technology like the internet and some do not. I think a great example of the digital divide is when I teach in the prisons, and I actually had this exact worksheet, and the students in the prison, a couple of the students in the prison, didn't know what this sign meant. It means Wi-Fi, right? Most of us know what this means, but some of these guys have been in prison for, say, 10 years, so this sign doesn't mean anything to them. They do not have access to internet or to using computers in the prison. So there's a digital divide. How does that then affect their learning? With you, you can just look, I can do up a video to explain something and you can go online and watch it. How does that benefit you? The guys, when they're taking a sociology class in prison, they can't just do a quick little Google or go onto YouTube. So the digital divide refers to how some people have access to digital technology and some do not. And those that do not have access to digital technologies are at a disadvantage. And let's see, two last terms refers to consumerism and advertising. So the media does a lot of advertising, right? Promotes this idea of consumerism, of buying, 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 buying. So two different terms I want you to know is emotional obsolescence. And this is when companies will cycle in new items to keep us wanting and buying. It's an emotional obsolescence. We want the newest, greatest thing. So Xbox One release draws long lines. This is people that maybe have a game system that is working, but they gotta have the newest, greatest thing. That's called emotional obsolescence, that people start to feel sad when they don't have the newest, greatest thing. And then planned obsolescence is when you have manufacturing companies, manufacturers who will create items with a plan for them to stop working after so many years so that people are forced to buy new. Recently, my fridge went and I had a repair guy come and he was looking at the fridge and he's like, you know what? You're better off just buying a new one because these fridges aren't, most appliances are only going to work about maybe 6, 7 years. They really aren't made to last a long time. So even if I fix this fridge right now, you might get another year out of it, maybe 2 years out of it, but it's better just to buy a new one. So planned obsolescence is that companies aren't making things so that they last a long time. It's more beneficial financially for them to make products that are going to stop working, like the iPhones, right? After a few years, they stop giving updates and they start working slower. And so it's this planned obsolescence. I think about how my grandma had like this a blender and toaster that were really ugly green and orange colors, right? But they still work. They still work. They're like heavy duty and they still work. Whereas appliances today, toasters, blenders, oh my gosh, you go through them quite quickly and they're made to not last as long. Planned obsolescence.